Usually when we sit down to do a deep dive, there's a really specific energy in the room.
Yeah.
We're excited. We're ready to unpack something complex.
Right.
We usually have coffee going. We're talking before we hit record.
Yeah.
But today feels very different.
It does. It really does.
The air in here just feels heavy.
Yeah.
I got this huge stack of papers in front of me, excerpts from Gerald Brittle's book, The Demonologist, the actual case files from the New England Society for Psychic Research. And I was actually hesitating to hit the record button.
I don't blame you at all. I've spent the last 3 days just living inside these particular files, immersing myself in the witness accounts from 1970. And there is a very visceral heaviness to this material.
Yeah.
You just don't find this in our standard historical deep dives. We're not talking about a movie plot today.
No.
We aren't talking about a campfire legend that's been exaggerated over the years. We are looking at a thoroughly documented, factual case file from the archives of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
And we need to make a disclaimer for you listening right off the bat. We are treating every single detail in these reports as absolute fact.
Absolutely.
We aren't here to debunk anything. We aren't going to play the skeptic and say, oh, maybe it was the wind or maybe they were hallucinating. We are going to walk through the chronological nightmare of two young nurses in 1970.
Yes, to really understand why a Raggedy Ann doll, something that is supposed to be this ultimate symbol of childhood comfort, remains the absolute most dangerous object in the Warrens' entire collection.
It's the case that defines the difference between a simple haunting and a full-blown demonic infestation.
The entity in the rag doll.
Right, the true case of Annabelle. And I think what makes this so intensely difficult to discuss is that it didn't happen in some gothic crumbling castle.
No, it didn't.
It happened in a very normal modern apartment complex.
That's the scariest part. So let's go back and set the scene properly for this. It is 1970.
We have to strip away the modern world for this to make sense.
Exactly. No cell phones, no internet. If you were in trouble in your apartment in 1970, you were completely alone until you could run to a landline.
You're just isolated.
Very isolated. We're in Hartford, Connecticut. We have a young woman named Donna. She is 28 years old, a nursing student getting ready to graduate.
Okay.
She's living in this tiny modern apartment with her roommate, Angie, who is also a nurse. And I really want to stress this point. These are highly practical, educated young women.
Right, they aren't looking for ghosts.
Not at all. They are in the medical field. They deal with anatomy, with science, with the very hard physical realities of life and death every single day.
They aren't superstitious people who jump at shadows.
No, and the catalyst for this entire horrific nightmare is just a gift, a simple birthday gift.
Donna's mother buys it at a hobby store.
Right. It's a large antique Raggedy Ann doll. Now, I really need you to erase the image from the movies.
Yes, forget the porcelain thing.
Forget the cracked face, inherently creepy doll you saw on the screen. The real Annabelle is deceptive precisely because she looks so innocent.
She's made of cloth.
Pure cloth. Red yarn hair, button eyes, a little painted-on triangular nose. She is incredibly soft.
I want to stick on the visual of the doll for a second because the movie version is scary in a very generic, expected way.
Right.
But the real Annabelle is terrifying because she shouldn't be. It's that horrible juxtaposition of a harmless floppy toy and this intense malevolent intent.
It's the uncanny valley in reverse. It's too soft. We're talking about a mass-produced rag doll. But she is large. She's 32 inches tall.
That is massive for a doll. That's nearly 3 feet.
Yeah.
That is the size of a generic 3 or 4-year-old human child.
Exactly. And think about the physics of the weight. A doll that massive, filled entirely with cotton stuffing, has a certain heft to it.
It's just dead weight.
It is dead weight. When you pick it up, the head just lolls back, the arms dangle uselessly. It is the very definition of inanimate. It has to comply with gravity completely.
Which makes the slow burn of this case so much worse. So Donna gets this doll. She's touched by her mother's gesture, and she just tosses it on her bed.
Right. End of story. Right. It's just room decor.
That's how it starts. Donna places the doll on her bed each morning before she leaves for her hospital shift.
Yep.
Arms at its sides, legs straight out.
Very deliberately.
Because she's a nurse, she's orderly, she knows exactly how she left her environment.
Precisely. She's very type A. But very quickly, within a matter of days, the atmosphere in that apartment begins to subtly shift.
The subtle movements.
This is the phase Ed Warren referred to as the initial infestation. But for the girls, it was just pure confusion at first. They would come home at 5 in the evening, and the doll would be different.
And we aren't talking about it just falling over from a breeze.
No. If a doll falls, it falls forward or it falls backward. Gravity dictates the path of least resistance.
You're right, it slumps.
It slumps. But they were finding the legs actually crossed at the ankles,
Or the arms folded tightly in the lap.
which is impossible.
Let's unpack the physics of that for a second. To cross the legs of a heavy rag doll, you have to physically lift the left leg, move it entirely over the right leg, and set it down.
Yes.
That requires torque. That requires lift. Gravity does not do that. A draft from an open window does not do that.
Exactly. A draft doesn't cross ankles. A slamming door doesn't fold hands into a deliberate lap position.
It implies intent.
It implies that while they were gone, working at the hospital, something in their apartment was actively moving with purpose.
And they tried to rationalize it, of course. They thought, oh, maybe the mattress sagged.
Or maybe I forgot how I left it. Rationalization is always the first line of defense against the impossible, but then the activity escalated.
It wasn't just posture changes anymore.
No, it became location changes. They would find the doll in completely different rooms.
Donna would leave it on the couch in the living room, lock the front door, go to work, and come home to find the doll back in her bedroom,
On the bed.
behind a closed door.
That is the point where most people would have just moved out. Immediately.
Honestly, yes. But there was one specific incident involving a chair that I really want to dissect because the physical reality of it just shatters any logical explanation.
The kneeling incident.
Yes.
This is crucial because it completely rules out any excuse about vibrations from the hallway or the building settling. They came home one day to find the doll actually kneeling on a dining chair.
Now think about the construction of a rag doll. It has absolutely no internal skeleton.
None.
It has no joints. It's just stuffing and soft cloth. If you take a rag doll and try to make it kneel, it collapses. It falls right over.
Gravity wins every single time. It's like trying to make a bath towel stand up on its own.
But they found it upright, on its knees, balancing perfectly.
The only way a rag doll kneels is if something is actively holding it up. Something invisible was physically supporting that fabric in real time to mimic a human posture.
That is so unnerving.
It implies a continuous external force. It wasn't just being moved, it was being posed.
Posed. Like it's mocking them. It's showing them, look, I could do things that violate the laws of nature. It's a pure display of power.
And then the communication started.
This is the part that genuinely chills me. The notes.
The parchment notes. About a month into this escalating activity, Donna and Angie started finding actual messages scattered around the apartment.
Written in pencil, right?
Yes, in pencil. The handwriting was incredibly crude, very childlike, almost like a desperate scrawl. And the messages were simple, direct, and terrifying.
What did they say?
They said, "Help us." And "Help Lou."
Lou. We need to talk about Lou. He was Angie's fiance, right?
Right. His role in this is pivotal, but let's stick on the notes for just a second longer. You mentioned parchment paper earlier when we were prepping.
Yes, the parchment. This is a detail that Ed Warren focused on very heavily in his initial analysis.
Donna and Angie did not own parchment paper. They didn't have anything like it in the apartment.
They looked for it, didn't they?
They tore the place apart, trying to find a source. They thought maybe there was an old sketchbook or some weird wrapping paper in a closet. There was absolutely nothing.
So where did the paper physically come from?
It's what parapsychologists call an apport. The entity wasn't just moving existing objects around anymore. It was introducing entirely new matter into the environment.
Manifesting physical objects from thin air.
Yes, which requires a tremendous amount of unseen energy. It shows a very high level of demonic strength.
But look at the actual content of the message. Help us. Why would a terrifying, powerful spirit write help us?
It's pure manipulation.
A hook.
Precisely. Help us implies that the entity is trapped, that it's suffering, that it's a victim. It is explicitly designed to elicit sympathy.
It's not a threat, at least not yet.
Exactly. It's a plea. It makes these young nurses feel compassion rather than terror. It's a highly calculated psychological game. It wanted them to lean in, not run away.
And just when they're totally confused, trying to figure out if this is a sick prank by a neighbor or a genuine cry for help from a ghost, the atmosphere violently shifts.
It goes from weird to physically threatening.
The blood.
This was the absolute escalation point. This is where the playful toy facade cracks completely.
Walk us through that day.
Donna returned home one evening after a long shift. She saw the doll on her bed, and she immediately knew something was horribly wrong. There was a liquid red substance on the doll.
Blood.
Blood on the back of its cloth hands, and 3 distinct, very symbolic drops of blood right on its chest.
3 drops. That is so specific.
In demonology, the number 3 is almost always an insult to the Trinity: the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
A mockery.
Yes, the demonic mocks that holy structure. 3 knocks on a wall, 3 deep scratches, 3 drops of blood. This was not accidental staining from a marker.
It was a message of impending violence.
And it was liquid. It wasn't dry paint. It was visceral, wet, organic matter just appearing on a cotton doll out of nowhere.
So you have a 3-foot doll moving on its own, writing notes on paper that shouldn't exist, and now it is actively bleeding.
Good girls are terrified at this point.
But there was one person who saw this situation for exactly what it was from the very beginning.
Lou.
Angie's fiancé.
Yes. Lou is the skeptic in the overall narrative, but he's also the one with the strongest, most accurate survival instinct.
He absolutely hated that doll.
He refused to even call it by its name. He referred to it as a voodoo doll. He told the girls to burn it immediately. He sensed the malevolence radiating off it.
He felt watched whenever he was in the same room with it.
And because he sensed it, because he outright rejected its innocent act, he became the primary target.
The entity viewed him as a genuine threat.
He wasn't buying into the sad little girl routine. And this leads us directly to the very first physical attack on Lou.
This wasn't just a spooky shadow in the corner. This was physical assault.
Lou was staying over at the apartment one night. He wakes up suddenly from a very deep sleep, but he is completely paralyzed. He can't move a muscle.
Sleep paralysis.
That's what a clinical doctor would say. But in standard sleep paralysis, you are often hallucinating. Lou is fully, lucidly conscious.
Okay.
He looks down toward the foot of the bed, and he sees Annabelle.
The doll.
But it's not just sitting there. The doll is slowly, deliberately gliding up his leg.
Just describe that sensation for a second. A rag doll does not have muscles to climb.
It was sliding, moving heavily over his stomach, climbing its way up to his chest. He can feel the physical weight of it pressing down on him.
God.
It stops on his chest, right over his throat. And then it begins to strangle him.
A rag doll. Strangling a grown adult man.
He can feel the pressure. Hard, crushing physical pressure directly on his windpipe. He's gasping for air.
He's actually blacking out.
Yes, from asphyxiation. This isn't a bad dream where you wake up gasping because you have sleep apnea. He was being physically choked out by this supernatural object.
He blacks out, and he wakes up the next morning completely terrified.
And he knows it wasn't a nightmare. His neck is deeply sore. He knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was assaulted.
But the girls, did they believe him? Or did they try to rationalize it as a bad dream?
I think they desperately wanted to believe it was just a dream. Denial is a very powerful coping mechanism.
But the second attack on Lou removed every single ounce of doubt.
This is the climax of the narrative before the Warrens are finally called in. This is the exact moment where the haunted toy becomes a predatory, lethal force.
Walk us through the map reading incident.
It's broad daylight, or at least they are fully awake and active in the apartment. Lou and Angie are sitting in the living room, poring over some maps, planning a road trip.
The apartment is totally quiet.
Very quiet. Donna isn't home. Suddenly, they hear this distinct rustling noise coming from Donna's bedroom.
Now, Lou immediately thinks someone broke in.
A very logical assumption. A burglar. So he goes into full protection mode. He quietly approaches the bedroom door. He waits for the noise to stop. He throws the door open.
And what does he see?
The room is completely empty. There is no burglar, but Annabelle is there.
Where is she?
She has been tossed haphazardly into a far corner of the room, just lying there on the floor.
So he steps into the room to check it out.
He walks slowly toward the doll. And as he gets close to it, he gets this overwhelming, suffocating sensation, an intense coldness, a very distinct presence directly behind him.
He spins around.
He spins around. There is absolutely no one there.
But instantly.
Instantly, he doubles over in absolute agony. He grabs his chest.
He's been cut.
He rips his shirt open. And there, carved deeply into his flesh, are 7 distinct claw marks.
7.
3 vertical cuts, 4 horizontal cuts. They are actively bleeding down his stomach. And he describes the pain not as a sharp cut from a knife, but as a severe burn.
They felt hot.
Like a hot branding iron had just been pressed into his chest.
7 claw marks from a completely invisible entity in an empty room.
And here's the kicker. The one detail that entirely confirms the paranormal nature for the later investigators. The healing rate.
By the heel.
These were very deep bleeding scratches. Medically speaking, they should have scabbed over heavily and taken weeks to fully fade.
Of course.
They healed completely within 2 days.
2 days.
By the second day, there wasn't even a trace of a scar left.
That is completely unnatural healing.
It was what demonologists call the mark of the beast, branded directly onto him and then supernaturally removed.
It was a demonstration.
Exactly. It was the entity saying, I can hurt you severely and I can erase the physical evidence just as easily. You have no power here.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we have definitely moved past spooky shifting dolls.
Yeah.
We are in full-blown, life-threatening danger territory.
Absolutely.
This is the shift. The girls finally realize they are way, way out of their depth. But before they called the church, before they called the Warrens, they made a mistake.
A massive, catastrophic mistake.
And this brings us into the analysis of the entity itself. Because before Lou was brutally attacked, back when it was just the subtle movements and the weird drops of blood, the girls tried to handle this situation themselves.
They called a medium.
They did, and this is a massive cultural touchpoint for the 1970s. We really have to remember the era we're talking about.
The occult was becoming very chic. It wasn't necessarily seen as dangerous by the general public. It was seen as counterculture, explorative.
Harmless parlor tricks.
Right. So they bring in this medium, and the medium sits in the apartment and goes into a deep trance.
Yeah, and tells them a story that is perfectly, meticulously designed to manipulate two young, empathetic nurses.
It is a masterclass in predatory psychology by the entity. The medium speaks and says, I see a little girl. She is 7 years old.
And her name?
Her name is Annabelle Higgins.
Annabelle Higgins. I mean, it even sounds harmless. It sounds like a character from a vintage children's book.
The medium says this human child died on the property in happier times, long before the modern apartments were ever built.
That her body was found in the fields.
Yes, that she's profoundly lonely, that she just plays in the fields and watches the girls. And here's the ultimate hook. The spirit speaks through the medium and says, I like you. You are kind. I feel safe with you.
It's pure flattery. It's weaponized validation.
It's the entity finding the victim's exact emotional weakness. These women are nurses. They're professional nurturers.
Their entire life calling is dedicated to helping the helpless.
And then comes the fatal request. The spirit asks, can I stay? Can I live inside the doll with you?
And this is the core concept we really need to drill down on. The law of invitation.
Yes.
Because up until this specific seance, the entity is just a terrifying annoyance. It's moving the doll around, it's being creepy, but it has absolutely no real authority over them.
Ed Warren was incredibly adamant about this rule in this, demonologist. Demonic spirits, by their very nature, are cosmically restricted.
They cannot just possess a home or a person entirely against their will without an opening.
They need human consent to anchor themselves.
And Donna and Angie, sitting in that living room, gave it to them.
They said, yes, you can stay. They formally authorized the demonic infestation of their own home.
They thought they were adopting a lonely ghost orphan.
But they were actually handing the keys to their apartment and their lives to a non-human, entirely malevolent intelligence.
Ed called this transposing, didn't he?
He did. The spirit was never a little girl. There was no Annabelle Higgins. It was using the persona of a tragic child as a Trojan horse to bypass their natural defenses.
So let's clarify this timeline. The activity explodes after the seance. Lou gets attacked, and finally, the Warrens arrive.
They contacted through a chain of frightened priests. Father Hegan reaches out to Father Cook, who calls Ed and Lorraine.
And Ed takes one look at the situation, hears the seance story, and shuts down the Annabelle Higgins theory immediately.
Immediately, he stated up flatly to the girls, there is no Annabelle. There never was.
He explained the difference between ghosts and demons to them.
He explained that human spirits, regular ghosts, do not possess inanimate objects. A ghost might haunt a location, like a house or a specific room where they lived.
But they don't possess a stuffed toy.
They don't have the power, or frankly the desire, to animate a mass-produced rag doll. Human spirits are bound by entirely different spiritual rules.
So if it wasn't a human ghost, what exactly was it?
Ed classified it as an inhuman demonic spirit.
Meaning?
Something that has never, ever walked the earth as a human being. Something ancient, dark, and predatory.
This is a massive distinction that I think a lot of people just miss. We use ghost and demon interchangeably in movies and pop culture.
But for the Warrens, they are completely different species of entity. A ghost is the lingering echo of a person. A demon is a hunter.
And Ed explained the strategy of the hunt. The doll itself was just a prop.
It was a conduit. The demon wasn't inside the doll like a battery powering a toy.
It was attached to it.
It was manipulating the physical fabric from the outside like a dark puppet master.
Why go through all that effort? Why use a doll? Why not just manifest and attack them on day one?
Because it needed that permission. It needed to steadily break down their psychological defenses. It used the doll to appear small and harmless.
To arouse curiosity first.
Exactly. Then it used the help us notes on the parchment to arouse sympathy. It tricked them.
It played on their specific nature as medical caregivers.
If it had appeared as a terrifying monster in the corner of the ceiling on day one, they would have fled the building instantly.
Right, survival instinct kicks in.
But by appearing as a sad little girl hiding in a soft toy, it got them to willingly say yes.
It's camouflage. It's complex hunting behavior.
It is, and Ed Warren outlined the specific stages of this demonic activity. We saw the infestation stage first.
The teleportation of the gall, the subtle movements, the notes.
That's stage one, just getting a foot in the door.
Then comes oppression.
That's the brutal attacks on Lou, the psychological terror in the apartment. The entire goal of oppression is to break down the human will,
To exhaust them.
to make the victims so terrified, so incredibly sleep-deprived and confused that they simply stop resisting the entity.
And the final stage.
Yeah.
The end game.
Possession. And this is the truly terrifying part of Ed's analysis. He told the nurses that the spirit had absolutely no long-term interest in the doll.
It didn't want to be a toy forever.
It wanted a living human host. If they hadn't called the church and the Warrens when they did, Ed firmly believed the spirit would have fully possessed Donna or Angie within a matter of weeks.
Or it would have just killed Lou to get him out of the way.
Exactly.
That puts the claw marks in a totally new perspective for me.
Uh.
That wasn't just an angry scratch. That was a test run.
Ed called it the mark of the beast because it was a literal claim of ownership over Lou's flesh.
So the Warrens are sitting in the apartment. They've fully diagnosed the horrific problem. This isn't Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's a demon actively looking to steal a body. What do they do next?
They realize immediately that this is a matter for the ordained clergy. It's not a spiritualist matter, it's a heavy theological one.
They bring in Father Cook.
They bring in Father Cook to perform a formal episcopal blessing of the entire apartment.
It's a 7-page rite.
A dense 7-page rite. It's not a full exorcism of a person, because no one is fully possessed yet, but it is a severe cleansing of the physical space.
They go room by room, violently reclaiming the territory from the entity.
And then there's the matter of the doll.
Donna wants it gone. Understandably.
She wants it completely out of her life. She never wants to look at it again.
So the Warrens agree to take it with them.
They know they have to remove the physical focal point of the infestation to give the apartment a chance to heal.
And this brings us to the final act of this nightmare. The intervention and the terrifying ride home. Now, I've driven cars with dodgy brakes before, but this story is just, it's something else entirely.
This isn't just a tough drive home. This is a spiritual battle on the road.
It's incredibly high stakes. Ed Warren warns Lorraine before they even start the engine. He says, "We are not taking the interstate today."
He absolutely refuses to go on the highway.
Because he knows the entity is still fiercely attached to that doll sitting in the back seat.
If something happens at 65 miles per hour on a crowded interstate, they are dead. So they take the back roads.
The winding, dark Connecticut back roads.
And the entity was not happy about being evicted.
Not at all.
So picture this incredibly tense scene. Ed and Lorraine are driving. It's a big, heavy 1970s sedan, safe, solid, American steel.
They have the doll wrapped up in the back seat.
And suddenly, the car isn't driving itself anymore.
Describe that. Is it just pulling to one side?
It is actively fighting him. Ed describes the steering wheel physically wrenching against his grip. We aren't talking about bad tire alignment.
We are talking about raw, opposing force.
He is desperately wrestling the heavy car just to stay out of the ditch. The car swerves violently, specifically at the most dangerous curves in the road.
And then the brakes go.
The brake pedal goes completely to the floor. Zero resistance, absolutely no hydraulics.
They are effectively trapped in a 2-ton metal missile, hurtling toward a tree line.
The engine is stalling, cutting the power steering, then roaring back. It is a complete mechanical shutdown, but it's being caused by a spiritual force.
This is the entity manifesting its rage through the machine itself.
It is pure telekinetic manipulation of the vehicle's complex systems. The demon is trapped in that backseat, and it knows exactly what systems to sabotage to kill its captors.
And wants a fatal crash.
Yes.
And Ed doesn't try to pull over and call a mechanic.
He knows this isn't a mechanical failure. In the absolute middle of this chaos, the car swerving wildly, Lorraine bracing hard for a brutal impact, Ed reaches into his black bag on the floorboard.
He pulls out a vial of holy water.
This is the ultimate faith versus physics moment. He can't safely pull over. He splashes the holy water directly onto the cloth doll on the back seat.
And he shouts a command.
He shouts a binding command in the name of Jesus Christ, and he physically makes the sign of the cross in the air.
And the physical result of that?
It was instantaneous. The exact moment the blessed water hits the fabric of the doll, the brakes fully engage again. The steering locks back into his control. The engine roars steadily to life.
And they round the corner safely.
Yes.
That is just chilling. It implies a direct, undeniable link between the spiritual binding power of the water and the literal hydraulic pressure of the car's brakes.
It entirely confirms the Warrens' core belief that the spiritual realm and the physical realm are deeply, inextricably intertwined.
The entity physically had to recoil from the holy water,
releasing its telekinetic grip on the car's mechanics to protect itself.
so they finally get the doll home to Monroe, Connecticut. They think, okay, we survived the drive, we're the experts, we can handle this safely in our own environment.
But Annabelle wasn't even close to being done.
This is the home invasion phase.
Right. Ed places the doll in a chair in his locked office. He sits down at his desk to work. And he watches the doll slowly levitate.
In the Warrens' own house, the most spiritually protected house in America.
Yes. It floats right up into the air, hovers for a moment, and then drops completely inert back into the chair.
And then it starts teleporting again, doesn't it?
They would lock the doll out in an outer building. Ed had a separate office building on the property. They'd lock it up securely, triple-check the deadbolts.
Right.
They'd go back into the main house, and there Annabelle would be,
Sitting in Ed's easy chair.
just waiting for them.
And the cat. I remember reading a really bizarre detail about a cat.
The black cat. The Warrens did not own a black cat. But Lorraine reported repeatedly seeing a massive black cat materializing right next to the doll.
Just staring at it.
Staring at it or actively stalking around it. It would materialize from shadows and then dematerialize entirely.
What was it?
Ed believed it was a familiar or perhaps a visual manifestation of the entity's own dark energy, just giving itself a secondary physical form.
It's like the entity was aggressively testing the boundaries of the Warrens' magical protection.
And it wasn't just messing with the Warrens, it actively attacked their visitors.
This is where the story gets lethal. We have the case of Father Jason Bradford.
Yes, he was a Catholic exorcist, a trusted colleague of Ed's. He comes over to the house one afternoon, sees the raggedy doll sitting in the chair.
And he makes a terrible mistake.
He picks it up.
What does he actually say to it?
He openly mocks it. He holds it up and says, "You're just a rag doll, Annabelle, you can't hurt anyone." And he tosses it dismissively back onto the chair.
Oh no. He treated it like a joke.
Ed looks at him, totally deadpan, and says, "That's one thing you better not say to it."
Lorraine feels it too, right?
Lorraine instantly gets a horrible feeling of dread. She begs the priest to be incredibly careful driving home. She sees tragedy surrounding him. She tells him to call the moment he gets home.
And does he?
An hour later, Father Bradford calls. His brakes completely failed at a busy intersection.
Just like the Warrens' car.
His car was entirely totaled. He barely survived, but it was a horrific, near-fatal accident.
Just hours after mocking the doll to its face.
It's the entity's signature move, apparently.
Yeah.
Sabotaging moving vehicles.
But the second major incident at the museum, the motorcyclist, that one didn't end in survival.
No, it didn't. This was much later, when the Occult Museum was officially established and open for tours.
Tell us exactly what happened.
A young man and his girlfriend were taking a tour. Ed is standing there, telling the terrible history of Annabelle.
And this young guy, full of macho bravado, starts making fun of the story.
He actually taps loudly on the glass case. He directly challenges the doll. He says, "If you can scratch people, scratch me right now."
He issued a direct invitation.
He issued a taunting challenge. Ed kicked him out of the museum immediately. He told him, "Son, you need to leave this property right now."
So the couple leaves on their motorcycle.
And 3 hours later,
What happens?
he loses complete control of the bike on a straight road. He hits a massive tree.
Oh my God.
He is killed instantly on impact. His girlfriend miraculously survived, but she spent over a year recovering in a hospital.
Just for tapping on the glass. Just for arrogant mockery.
It completely reinforces what Ed and Lorraine always warned people. You do not taunt these entities.
You do not challenge them.
They are highly intelligent, they are incredibly proud, and they are viciously vindictive.
So realizing this thing is basically a loaded supernatural gun, Ed decides he needs to lock it down permanently.
He builds the special case, the famous one we all know from the photos. wood and glass.
But it's not just a wooden box, it's a literal spiritual prison.
What makes it special are the bindings. Ed personally hand-carved the Lord's Prayer and the St. Michael's Prayer deeply into the wood itself.
He instills binding prayers over the physical case, periodically.
Because the core idea isn't that the thin glass holds the demon back. Glass shatters easily. The holy prayers hold the demon.
The famous sign on the front.
Warning: positively do not touch. That isn't a quirky museum rule. It is a vital safety warning.
And since it's been sealed in that case, has it actually moved?
Physically walking around? No, it hasn't been seen moving in the room. But Tony Spera, the Warren son-in-law who fiercely guards the museum now, he says the invisible threat is just as incredibly active today.
He calls interacting with it playing Russian roulette.
Meaning the entity is still right there, it is waiting patiently, it is fully contained, but it is absolutely not destroyed.
That brings us to the end of the strict chronological narrative, but I really want to circle back to something we touched on earlier because it's vital for you listening.
The law of invitation.
It's the most important takeaway from this entire horrific case.
Because it started so incredibly simply. A well-meaning mother buying a nice doll at a hobby shop.
A young, compassionate girl trying to be nice to a lonely, crying spirit.
Right. The Warrens strongly believe that the demonic cannot just kick down your front door uninvited. You have to willingly unlock it for them.
Usually people think that's done through obvious occult practices.
Yeah.
Ouija boards, dark seances, bizarre rituals.
But in this specific case, the door was opened entirely through human compassion.
That's the most terrifying part to me. They were nurses. They dedicated their lives to helping.
And that beautiful compassion was ruthlessly weaponized against them. They anthropomorphized a dead object. They treated the rag doll like a living person.
And when the spirit asked for clear permission, they gave it.
That simple yes was the key that turned the lock and let the monster inside.
It makes you look at the mundane objects in your own house differently. Not that every antique toy is harboring a demon, obviously.
No, but it's about respecting what you don't fully understand. Ed Warren used to say that the separation between our physical world and the dark, demonic realm is exactly like a thin veil.
When you blindly engage with the unknown, when you invite things in without knowing what they truly are, you are tearing a hole in that veil.
And you have absolutely no idea what is standing right on the other side, waiting for the rip.
And in the nurse's case, what was standing on the other side was an ancient predator that wanted to tear them apart.
It wanted their lives. It wanted a physical body to inhabit, and it came incredibly close to getting one.
The doll sits in that locked case in Connecticut right now. I've seen the high-res pictures of it. It looks so floppy, so entirely harmless.
That false innocence is its absolute greatest weapon.
And Tony Spera maintains it's the most dangerous object in the entire museum. More dangerous than the satanic idols. More lethal than the conjuring mirrors. This simple rag doll.
Because it has a proven, bloody track record, it has demonstrated its ability to deeply deceive, to aggressively oppress, and to kill.
So what does this all mean for us, for you listening today?
I think it's a profound warning about the unknown. We live in a modern world where we arrogantly think we have everything figured out.
Science explains the weather, modern medicine explains the plague.
But this documented case, those 7 burning claw marks on Lou's chest, the car brakes failing specifically and only when the doll is in the back seat, the parchment paper manifesting from literally nowhere.
Science runs headfirst into a brick wall right there.
It really does. And the ultimate takeaway is extreme caution. Be incredibly careful what you invite into your personal life.
Be careful what you acknowledge in the dark.
And if something feels deeply wrong in your home, if the physical atmosphere suddenly shifts, if you feel watched from an empty corner, do not engage with it.
Do not talk to it. Do not ask it what it wants.
Because the true answer might simply be you.
That is deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
Before we sign off today, I want to leave you listening with one final provocative thought.
Right.
Something that kept me completely awake last night while I was prepping these files.
What's that?
We talk a lot about the glass case being the ultimate containment. We talk about the hand-carved prayers permanently binding the spirit.
Right.
But Ed Warren made it very, very clear to everyone. The demonic spirit isn't trapped inside the doll. It is attached to it, like an invisible parasite latched onto a physical host.
Yes, that's a crucial distinction.
The doll hasn't physically moved in decades. The glass is incredibly fragile. Wood naturally rots over time.
It does.
If that specific glass pane were to suddenly crack, if a minor earthquake hit Connecticut, or a small fire weakened the museum structure, If that holy barrier breaks open today, right now,
Mhm.
does the infestation immediately begin again?
That is the